So, since Doctor Strange has come out, that marks the end of superhero movies for 2016. So I thought I would do a recap of all the superhero movies this year by ranking them from best to worst. Unlike my ranking of all the Superman movies, I'm going to briefly review each one of them in order of release, and then rank them from best to worst. If you want to know more of my in-depth thoughts on these movies, I have links to my reviews of them in the description. Alright, now that that's out of the way, here we go. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I love this movie. Here's what's great about it. The action is really awesome. Unlike most superhero movies, it's violent and there's actually some blood when people get stabbed and shot, which is missing from a lot of action movies and superhero movies these days. The comedy in it is really funny, and a lot of the characters and character interactions were really hilarious, and speaking of, the characters in here were phenomenal. Ryan Reynolds killed it as Deadpool. Vanessa was really good and wasn't some basic love interest. Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead were really cool, and it was nice to see actual superheroes talk to Deadpool and not understand what the hell he's doing. CGI in this was actually good, especially compared to some other X-Men movies. Looking at you, Apocalypse. Colossus especially looked awesome. And this movie was something different in the superhero genre. The movie was R-rated, the comedy scenes weren't like any other superhero movie, and the fact that it broke the fourth wall really just changed superhero movies. And because of this movie's success, movies like Logan, and probably some others, are going to be rated R. And even though studios could get carried away with that, it seems pretty awesome. As for the bad stuff, there's not that much. Ajax was a bit underdeveloped, and I didn't really understand his motivation. And even though I said the CGI looks pretty incredible in this, a lot of the CGI blood seemed really obvious to me. That said, Deadpool was really fun, and I'm giving it a 9.4 out of 10. I think this movie is okay. I probably liked it more than most people, and I had a really enjoyable time at the cinema. First off, the action and effects were pretty amazing. I really liked the Batman v Superman fight, and of course the Batman warehouse fight. The cinematography was also really great, by far one of the best looking movies of the year. Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot were really good in it. And a lot of the plot holes in the theatrical cut were fixed by the Ultimate Edition, which I'll also rate separately. As far as the bad stuff goes, they really didn't have a really good script. Some characters, like Superman and Wonder Woman, weren't given enough to do. And even though a lot of the plot holes were fixed in the Ultimate Edition, there still were some floating around. The villains, Lex Luthor and Doomsday, were pretty bad. Lex was just weird every time he came on, and Doomsday was just something so all the heroes could team up and fight. The pacing was also pretty bad, but it was a little bit better in the Ultimate Edition. Overall, it's enjoyable, but it has its flaws. I'm gonna give the theatrical cut a 5.5 out of 10, and the Ultimate Edition a 6 out of 10. Alright, yeah, this movie is pretty great. First off, the characters and performances were really amazing. I'd argue that this has the best performances of any MCU movie. And the characters it introduced, mainly Spider-Man and Black Panther, were great. Tom Holland played him perfectly, and Black Panther was such a badass in this movie. Zemo was also really good. I know some people didn't like him, but I thought he was a really interesting villain. And, of course, the airport battle is incredible. Possibly the best action scene of 2016. And when I first saw Civil War, I was kind of disappointed by it, and if you've seen my review, you can kind of tell. But on second viewing, this movie is incredible. As for the not so good stuff, well, like Deadpool, there isn't really much. Some CGI doesn't look too great, and they do use a bit of shaky cam in some of the scenes. Overall, this movie is pretty awesome, and I'm giving it a 9.4 out of 10. Okay, this movie isn't great, but I still really like it. First off, James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender were awesome. They gave the best and most emotional performances in the movie, and I don't think I'll ever get tired of seeing them in those roles. The new cast members were also really good, especially Nightcrawler, who acted basically the same as he did in Acts 2. The action was pretty awesome and, in a lot of parts, kinda brutal. And unlike a lot of people, I think Oscar Isaac was a pretty good Apocalypse, even if he looked kinda stupid. As for the bad stuff, some characters didn't do enough. The pacing was a little bit odd at parts, and there was some really bad CGI. Overall, X-Men Apocalypse was a really fun watch, but it has its problems. I'm giving it a 7.8 out of 10.
All my friends are heathens, take it slow.
Before I begin, I don't have time for the extended cut, and it's only 10 minutes longer anyway, so I don't really care that much. Anyway, time to talk about this. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I don't think Suicide Squad is that good of a movie. For starters, the editing in the movie just kinda baffles me. It takes all subtlety out of it, and ruins scenes that could have actually been really good. The Joker is barely in this movie, and maybe that was for the best. I mean, I don't hate this Joker, but it kind of feels like some other character. Also, too much growling. The action in the movie was pretty mediocre. Some of the characters were good, some were really over the top, and some seemed really interesting, but needed a lot more development. In the end, Suicide Squad isn't a terrible film, but it's really far from perfect. I'm giving Suicide Squad a 5 out of 10. Alright, Doctor Strange is another really good Marvel movie. First off, the cast were phenomenal in this. Benedict Cumberbatch killed it as Doctor Strange, and Tilda Swinton nearly stole the show as the Ancient One. The rest of the supporting cast and characters were also really great. This movie is surprisingly really funny, and even though basically everyone has talked about this, the action and visuals were just incredible. This has some of the best and most creative action scenes I've ever seen in a movie. As for the bad stuff, the pacing wasn't really that great. I couldn't really tell for how long this movie took place. Apparently the movie was just supposed to take place during a year, but some of the training stuff was really rushed over. There were also one or two goofy scenes that didn't fit in the movie, but that's about it. Overall, Doctor Strange was really fun and visually incredible, with some minor flaws. I'm giving it an 8.8 out of 10. Alright, now to rank them. Number 6, or basically the worst superhero movie of 2016, would sadly have to be Suicide Squad. Number 5 would be Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition. Number 4 would be X-Men Apocalypse. Number 3 would be Doctor Strange, and before I reveal the top 2, let me just say that choosing between 1 and 2 was extremely difficult, as I think both movies are really great. But in the end, number 2 would be Deadpool, and number 1, the best superhero movie of 2016 in my opinion, would have to be Captain America Civil War. Anyway, that's how I'd rank the superhero movies of 2016. Remember to like this video, leave a comment about what you thought about these movies, and subscribe for more videos like this one.